Tonight, Monday Night Raw takes place once again from the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida, inside the WWE Thunderdome, live on the USA Network. What we're going to talk about in this video is one of the things that has been announced for tonight's show, and that is a special episode of the FireFly Fun House. Yes, we're going to have Bray Wyatt along with Alexa Bliss as always, but potentially Randy Orton has invited himself into the FireFly Fun House this time, so we could see Randy Orton on this episode of the FireFly Fun House. Now, it goes without saying. At this point, it goes without saying, the Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, Alexa Bliss storyline right now is the best thing on Monday Night Raw. It's the best thing going on Monday Night Raw. Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss, quite frankly, just are the best things going on the show in general. But this storyline with Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton, I love. I love it because it tells history. It tells history and it rewards viewers for being loyal to the product. We know the history between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. It goes back to 2016, 2017 on SmackDown Live. Randy Orton infiltrated the Wyatt family. Luke Harper at the time had this weird feeling. I don't know if this guy's legitimate. For a while, it looked like Randy Orton had bought into the Wyatt family. Eventually, like the snake Randy Orton is, he turned on Bray Wyatt, burnt down the Wyatt family compound. They had their match at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship. Bray Wyatt was actually the WWE Champion at the time. They had the match for the WWE Championship. Randy Orton won. The match was awful. The match was terrible. You had the projections on the ring of the maggots and the worms. It was like the boogeyman was about to come out. It was terrible. You had an even worse match at the House of Horrors the following month at Extreme Rules. That was terrible as well. But the storyline, what is most remembered for, is the storyline. The storyline was really good. The story was great. Randy Orton turning on Bray Wyatt, burning down the compound. It was fantastic. It was something that everyone saw coming and knew was coming. But it was long-form storytelling that WWE traditionally doesn't do, especially in the modern era. It was such a nice change of pace and it was so well done. Nevertheless, everyone has been talking about, since The Fiend became a thing, since The Fiend debuted in WWE in 2019, since The Fiend basically started going after people that had wronged Bray Wyatt in the past, whether it was Daniel Bryan, whether it was John Cena, whether it was Braun Strowman, whether it was whoever had wronged him in the past, a lot of people were saying, well, when is Randy Orton going to be next? Because arguably, is Randy Orton Bray Wyatt's biggest storyline of the Eater of Worlds character? I guess maybe he had the feuds with John Cena and The Undertaker and the Brothers of Destruction, but the Randy Orton one was very significant. It's certainly a feud people still talk about to this day. So a lot of people were saying, when is The Fiend going to go after Randy Orton? And they've teased it for weeks, but we're really getting some momentum now because it's been announced that at TLC later on this month from Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, Florida, we're going to have The Fiend facing Randy Orton. It's finally going to happen. We're going to have the match between The Fiend and Randy Orton. And make no mistake about it, if any more clarification or clarity was needed, The Fiend is now a babyface. This was evident in the segment last week. You had Randy Orton on a moment of bliss. And for the last few weeks, The Fiend has been in the head of Randy Orton. The Fiend has been playing mind games with the Viper. The Fiend has been chasing and hunting down Randy Orton. And eventually, somehow, Randy Orton was running scared for a while, but he managed to flip the switch, whatever the phrase is. He's managed to turn the tables on The Fiend because last week he played mind games with The Fiend. He's kind of maybe the first person to play mind games with The Fiend because Randy Orton came out. It was a moment of bliss hosted by Alexa Bliss. Randy Orton came out and said, I found The Fiend's weakness. The lights go out comes The Fiend. Once the lights come back on, The Fiend's there, but Alexa Bliss is suddenly in the arms of Randy Orton. And we see emotion for the first time really from The Fiend. We see emotion and we see fear from The Fiend. And he's desperately wanting Alexa Bliss back. He's saying, give her back, give her back. Randy Orton eventually gives Alexa Bliss back and walks off and says, who's laughing now? Or who's playing mind games now? Randy Orton is suddenly in the head of The Fiend. Now, there was a lot of criticism, or it certainly was a polarizing segment. It definitely was a polarizing segment for a variety of reasons. People were questioning why Alexa Bliss wasn't, trying to get out of the arms of Randy Orton. Well, she did say earlier on in the segment that Randy Orton was her favourite wrestler. So maybe think of that too. People were questioning why Randy Orton should get in the head of The Fiend. I see it as progression. I felt that it was a segment purposely to ensure that everyone knows The Fiend is a babyface. Now, this line they have to walk very, very carefully, in my opinion. What do I mean by that? For me, these kind of characters, like The Fiend, like this version of Bray Wyatt, they can absolutely be a babyface. I don't subscribe to the notion at all that they can't be babyfaces and they can only be heels. People said the same about The Undertaker and Kane, and look how that worked out. They were two of the biggest baby faces ever, and two of the best heels too, but two of the biggest baby faces ever. How does they make it work? How do you make it work with them as a babyface? You don't change anything. That's what you do. You don't change anything at all. This is what they did with The Undertaker. They didn't change anything really about his character when they made him a babyface. What did they change? They changed just the opponents that he faced. That's it. And that's exactly what they should do when it comes to The Fiend. And when I say they're walking a fine line with this, what I mean by that is you can't show too much emotion when it comes to The Fiend. You can show some. I think the best comparison is to someone like The Undertaker. That's probably the closest comparison you can make with this kind of character. So The Fiend can show emotion, but he can't be seen as super vulnerable. You can do that eventually 10 years down the line when the character really does have some sort of stock and he's so ingrained in the programming that you do need to show these different aspects of the character and of his personality and of his psyche. At this point, The Fiend has only been around for what, 18 months? We don't need to see The Fiend being super emotional, having so much vulnerability just yet. So I think they're walking a fine line. I don't think they've stepped over it just yet, but it's something to consider, no doubt. Nevertheless, Randy Orton appearing inside the FireFly Fun House, I think will be a lot of fun. I guess this will be the continuation of the Mind Games kind of situation. We've obviously seen Randy Orton interact with The Fiend a couple of times, but we haven't seen Randy Orton truly come face-to-face with Bray Wyatt. As of yet, the FireFly Fun House version of Bray Wyatt. So I'm assuming that's essentially what this segment will do as well. And I think this segment as well will continue to solidify that Bray Wyatt is officially a babyface. I think that's going to be the main purpose of this storyline and of this match that they're going to have at TLC, is that Bray Wyatt is officially a babyface. But again, they need to walk a fine line when it comes to that. But when it comes to this feud as well, as I mentioned, Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss, they are the best things on Monday Night Raw. I think they're the thing that every week when I watch, I go, that is the best thing on the show. The Alexa Bliss addition to the Bray Wyatt character has given it a much needed shot in the arm. I've said this several times, I'll say it again. I felt that the Bray Wyatt character and the Fiend character was getting slightly repetitive. It wasn't getting old or outdated or anything like that. My concern is that they were going down the same path that they had done previously with the Eater of Worlds version of Bray Wyatt, in that they had a format when it came to the character and they just stuck to it. And they did the same thing week in and week out, and it became repetitive, and quite frankly, it became boring. Do you remember the time Bray Wyatt would come out and cut one of those promos, and afterwards you went, what a waste of time. I have no idea what you said. It didn't progress anything, and you just spoke in riddles and cryptic weirdness. And I understand that was the point, but it kind of felt like a cop-out. That, oh, that's the point. You're not meant to understand him. He's meant to be creepy. You're meant to read into it in so many different ways. But it was boring. There was no progression. And it kind of, for a while, we were getting there when the FireFly Fun House. Sometimes they would have these FireFly Fun House segments on SmackDown that had no story, had no progression. They were just there. They were just there to advertise Bray Wyatt's going to do a FireFly Fun House segment. And there was nothing really there. It felt really repetitive. Now you add in Alexa Bliss, this completely different dynamic. It's changed the Bray Wyatt character and personality completely. It's changed the relationship that The Fiend has with other people completely. It's exactly what this Bray Wyatt character needed. The best characters throughout WWE history evolve. They don't change, they evolve. That's the most important thing. As I mentioned there with Bray Wyatt, this is what's so crucial to him working as a babyface. Don't change his character. Evolve his character. And I know people will say that's the same thing. Not really, because you're keeping pure what made them great in the first place, not a radical change. And I think that's the important thing. That's the most important thing that the Alexa Bliss character has added to the Bray Wyatt character, is that it's allowed him to evolve. It's allowed him to show different aspects of the character that we hadn't seen previously. That is what is so important about the addition of Alexa Bliss. And that's why they're the best thing, because we're seeing these different sides to Bray Wyatt. We're seeing this different dynamic than what we're used to seeing on Monday Night Raw and in WWE. They truly are the Joker and Harley Quinn of the WWE. And I know that upsets people because they'll go, well, it's not like that. It's just WWE trying to copy it. Well, quite frankly, pro wrestling copies from everything. Look at the Sting character. He is the Crow, quite literally from the film The Crow. Go look it up. So to have the Fiend and Alexa Bliss, or Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss, be WWE's version of the Joker and Harley Quinn, I love it. And as a comic book fan, I love it. So really excited and interested to see what Randy Orton does if he does show up in the FireFly Fun House tonight. Nevertheless, these newer versions of the FireFly Fun House with Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss have been a lot of fun to watch. So I'm very much excited to see what they have in store for us tonight. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on a special edition of the FireFly Fun House tonight, potentially with Randy Orton showing up on Monday Night Raw inside the FireFly Fun House? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply. Really enjoy interact with you guys, chat about Monday Night Raw, WWE, AEW, Impact, all that stuff on the channel here, so be sure to leave a comment below. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button. Really does help us out here on YouTube, get up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.